industry.
Say to continue to work hard and don't give up on your goals. And I know for me, like I said, I grew up watching my family struggle, and I grew up with a family that was successful but not born successful. And I believe with hard work and with a goal and love and positivity, then eventually.
Hey guys, today we're diving into some seriously wild stories that are shaking up the entertainment world. We've got Beyoncé and Jay-Z's mysterious business empire, Chappell Roan's hypocrisy getting exposed, and some major updates about Bianca Censori potentially divorcing Kanye. Let's start with something that's been making waves in the industry: Beyoncé and Jay-Z's latest business venture. Now, we all know they're billionaires, but the way they're making their newest millions, it's raising some serious ethical questions. According to multiple sources, the power couple has been running what's essentially a high-end surrogacy farm, making nearly 6 figures daily. But this ain't your typical surrogacy situation. We're talking about a complex operation that's catching the attention of international authorities. Think about it. While everyone's been focused on Renaissance tours and album drops, the Carters have quietly built an empire that's making their music money look like pocket change. And when I tell you the details are shocking, that's putting it lightly.
Well, trust yourself. Know who you are. Work very hard.
How long did it take you to be able to trust yourself?
Well, I was so young when I first started. It took a couple of years because I didn't know who I was. I was still a teenager. Mm-hmm. But we always wrote our own songs, and we always, had creative control. For one, because the label didn't really believe in us, so they were like, oh, let them do whatever.
Let's dive deeper into this surrogacy situation because the details are absolutely wild. Sources say the Carters are charging wealthy Europeans and Russians up to 10 times the normal surrogacy rates. But here's where it gets really concerning. The women involved, they're barely making $500 to $1,000 for the entire process. And we're not just talking about surrogacy anymore. They've apparently expanded into what they're calling an adoption center. But the way this operation works is raising serious red flags. Think about the timing of all this. Right when headlines are breaking about human egg trafficking farms being discovered in Georgia, where over 100 women were kept in horrific conditions, suddenly we're hearing about this high-end operation run by America's most powerful music couple. And get this, while the Carters' operation is technically legal, the way they're handling aftercare is concerning at best. Sources say once these women are discharged from the hospital, they're completely on their own. No follow-up care, no support system, nothing. But wait until you hear about the contracts these women are.
They say that he has great instincts, but well on the streets, having great instincts can be the difference between life and death, not just losing the deal.
Or incarceration.
Or incarceration, which is less than death, mm-hmm. Right? And which is, and being a person of high integrity, people want to deal with you, in business.
Now, let's switch gears and talk about Chappell Roan, because this story is the definition of irony. Remember her big Grammy moment when she spoke about the importance of paying artists fair wages? Well, it turns out she might need to take her own advice. A nail technician just exposed Chappell's team for trying to get free services in exchange for exposure. And not just any services, we're talking about multiple nail sets for a major tour with only 2 days' notice. The audacity is honestly. The nail artist, Holly Munns, brought receipts, actual emails from Chappell's team requesting gifted sets in exchange for tagging and credit. They even had the nerve to mention that the tour was covered by Vogue and Nylon, as if that would pay anyone's bills. But here's what's really fascinating. While Chappell's on stage preaching about fair wages, her team is out here trying to exploit small business owners. And when the nail artist called her out, the response from Chappell's camp will make you question everything about influencer culture.
On my side, he's very sharp, and again, he just affirmed to me that instincts is really important in business. I didn't go to any proper business school or any read any follow any manuals like the Record Business 101 or anything like that. I just pretty much followed my instincts. And he just...
Let's dig deeper into this Chappell Roan situation, because the more layers we peel back, the messier it gets. The email exchanges that Holly shared are literally a masterclass in entitled behavior. Alexandra Smith, writing on behalf of Chappell, had the audacity to say, "We were wondering if you would gift any sets for tagging and credit." Like, imagine going to your landlord and saying, "I'll tag you on Instagram instead of paying rent." The math. But here's what's really wild. This isn't just about one nail artist. Since Holly spoke out, multiple other small business owners have come forward with similar stories. We're talking about makeup artists, hairstylists, even costume designers who were all approached with the same exposure pitch. The pattern of exploitation that's emerging will leave you absolutely speechless. And let's talk about the timing of all this. Right after Chappell's big Grammy speech about fair wages, these requests were still being sent out. It's like her team didn't even listen to their own artist's message. The disconnect is absolutely mind-blowing.
My advice is just do things that are true to you. Most things that I'm involved with are extension of being creative. Rockaway is a clothing company. It's part of who you are, and hip hop is your attitude and what.
But here's what's really wild. This isn't just about one nail artist. Since Holly spoke out, multiple other small business owners have come forward with similar stories. We're talking about makeup artists, hairstylists, even costume designers who were all approached with the same exposure pitch. The pattern of exploitation that's emerging will leave you absolutely speechless. And let's talk about the timing of all this. Right after Chappell's big Grammy speech about fair wages, these requests were still being sent out. It's like her team didn't even listen to their own artist's message. The disconnect is absolutely mind-blowing. Now, let's shift to our third story, because what's happening with Bianca Censori and Kanye West is absolutely wild. Sources are saying she's finally waking up to the reality of her situation, and trust me, this is not your typical celebrity marriage drama. Multiple insiders confirm that Bianca has been meeting with lawyers to learn about her options. And when I tell you the reasons why, this goes way beyond Kanye's usual antics. We're talking about controlling conduct that's making even his closest friends uncomfortable. Think about it. We've all seen those outfits he's been making her wear, the way he's been controlling her public image, and let's not forget about those bizarre rules he's reportedly set for her. But now we're hearing about restrictions that make those look tame in comparison. The conditions Bianca's been living under will make your skin crawl? Sources close to the situation say she's not even allowed to speak in public without his permission. Remember those weird photos where she's covering her face? Turns out there's a much darker reason behind that than just avoiding paparazzi. Let's dive deeper into Bianca's situation, because what's coming out now is seriously concerning. According to multiple sources, she's been essentially isolated from her family and friends back in Australia, and the control extends way beyond what we see in public. Remember how her father was reportedly part of the Melbourne Mafia? Well, it turns out that connection might be the only thing keeping Kanye's conduct in check. Sources say her dad's reputation is the main reason Kanye hasn't completely cut her off from her family. But here's where it gets really interesting. Bianca apparently has more power in this situation than anyone realized. That power of attorney agreement everyone thought was just about managing Kanye's business, it might end up being her ace in the hole. But here's where it gets really interesting. Bianca apparently has more power in this situation than anyone realized. That power of attorney agreement everyone thought was just about managing Kanye's business, it might end up being her ace in the hole. Multiple legal experts have confirmed that Bianca could potentially control more of Kanye's empire than even Kim Kardashian did. We're talking about business decisions, financial moves, and even his social media presence. But the real question is, why hasn't she used this power yet? Let's circle back to the Carter's business empire, because new details are emerging that make the earlier revelations look tame. Sources say this surrogacy operation is just the tip of the iceberg. Remember those mysterious business meetings Jay-Z's been having in Eastern Europe? Turns out they weren't just about music distribution. Multiple sources confirm they're setting up what they're calling wellness centers, but the services these centers provide are raising serious ethical questions. We're talking about a network of clinics that cater exclusively to the ultra-wealthy, offering services that would make even the most expensive Beverly Hills doctors blush. But here's where it gets really dark. The way they're sourcing their medical staff is causing concern among international authorities. And Beyoncé isn't just a silent partner in all this. Sources say she's been actively involved in the expansion plans, using her connections in the fashion industry to recruit young women for various opportunities. The way they're marketing these positions, it's giving major red flags. The recruitment tactics they're using are more sinister than anyone imagined. Let's get back to Chappell Roan for a minute, because this story just took an even wilder turn. Remember those emails asking for free nail services? Well, it turns out that was just the beginning of a much larger pattern of entitled conduct. Multiple vendors from her tour have come forward with similar stories. We're talking about small businesses being asked to provide thousands of dollars worth of products and services, all for the promise of exposure and a possible Instagram story that would disappear in 24 hours. The leaked tour rider demands will make you question everything about her relatable image. Sources close to the tour reveal that while Chappell was preaching about fair wages at the Grammys, her team was simultaneously trying to negotiate free services from local businesses at every tour stop. We're talking about hair, makeup, costumes, even catering, all expected to be provided for exposure. But here's what's really fascinating. When these businesses started comparing notes, they discovered something interesting. The team wasn't just asking for free services, they were actually selling some of these gifted items online. Talk about turning exposure into profit. Just not for the original artists. Or like a Kanye situation, because what's happening behind closed doors is even more concerning than what we're seeing in public. Sources say their recent public appearances are basically staged performances. Remember those bizarre outfits and public displays? Turns out each one is meticulously planned by Kanye, down to the exact angle Bianca should hold her head. We're talking about actual rehearsals before they leave the house, with specific instructions about how to act in public. The security footage from their home that just leaked shows a completely different reality. Multiple staff members have come forward with stories about Kanye's controlling demands. He's allegedly created a rulebook for Bianca that would make a military boot camp look relaxed. Everything from what she can eat, to who she can talk to, even what language she can use, it's all strictly monitored. But here's where it gets really interesting. Bianca's family isn't just sitting back anymore. Sources say her father has been documenting everything, building a case that could potentially lead to more than just divorce proceedings. The evidence they're gathering, it's explosive. Let's circle back to the Carter's operation because new financial documents have surfaced that make this whole situation even more suspicious. We're not just talking about a surrogacy business anymore. This is looking more like a global network. Sources with direct knowledge of their operations say they've established facilities in at least 6 different countries, all operating under different company names. And get this, none of these businesses directly link back to Beyoncé or Jay-Z. The way they've structured this, it's giving major offshore account energy. The money trail that investigators just uncovered will leave you absolutely stunned. We're talking about millions flowing through shell companies, mysterious consultancy fees, and some very interesting connections to certain European clinics. But here's what's really raising eyebrows. The timing of all these business registrations lines up perfectly with some very suspicious international travel patterns. And those private jets everyone thought were just for tours and vacations. Flight logs show they've been making regular trips to countries known for their loose medical regulations. The pattern is impossible to ignore, and authorities are starting to ask questions. Let's get back to Chappell Roan's situation because the hypocrisy just keeps getting deeper. A former team member has come forward with internal emails that expose the real economics behind her support small artists message. While she's on stage talking about fair wages, her management team has apparently been running what amounts to an influencer exploitation scheme. They've created an actual spreadsheet ranking small businesses by their desperation level. The more desperate the business, the more they try to get for free. The internal documents that just leaked will make every small business owner's blood boil. Sources say they've been specifically targeting newly opened businesses and struggling artists, promising them career-changing exposure. But here's the kicker, out of hundreds of businesses that provided free services, only 3 ever got tagged on social media. And those posts, they were buried in stories that disappeared after 24 hours. But it gets worse. Remember that Grammy speech about artist exploitation? Well, it turns out her team was simultaneously negotiating deals to profit from the very same practices she was condemning. We're talking about contracts that would give her a percentage of other artists' earnings in exchange for mentorship. The audacity doesn't stop there. They've been approaching music schools, offering to let students work on her tour for free. Of course, while charging these same students for masterclass sessions about making it in the industry.